In 2008, Robin and Lois Greer built an organic cheese factory on their dairy farm. They think of their products as being food the way it used to be, so they called themselves Retro Organics.
This all goes back to a dream of mine from 18 years ago, was to one day process our own milk on our own farm. So that's where it all started. And the organic side of it came from the fact that both of our dads died of cancer when we were in our teens. And so we've sort of always researched a fair bit about what's actually happening in the food chain. And we're fairly convinced that a lot of cancers, etc., relate to what's actually in people's food. Been dairy farming now for about 30 years. Share milked in the Waikato for about 12 years, then came down here and bought 80 hectares originally, which we always farmed conventionally until about 12 years ago when we started thinking that these chemicals and all that we're using, we weren't happy doing that, weren't morally satisfied that that was the right thing to do, so we progressively took them out. We didn't actually set out to be organic, we actually ended up being organic because of what we wanted to take out of the system. The biggest challenges, I guess, really has been bureaucracy. People that are in an office that have never actually done anything practical, trying to get them to understand what we're actually trying to do. We're operating at about 5% capacity at the moment, so we obviously have a huge potential yet. And so we actually set out to produce what we could market. So we didn't set out to process what the factory is capable of, we set out to process what we could actually market. We did a lot of homework. We went and talked to a lot of businesses, on-farm businesses like this, both in New Zealand and Australia. And one thing that was very clear was that no one built their factories big enough. So we actually set out to build a factory that was big enough to process all the milk off both of our farms. So that's, basically 700 to 800 cows worth of milk that we could process all in one day without it being a night shift, because I guess I don't want to work nights, so I don't expect staff to work nights. So we built the factory that sort of scale, even though it might be years before we actually use that sort of scale. Well, I spent 3 years before we actually started building, researching the plant, where to source it from, who could provide it for us, and what was the best plant for us to actually use. Like, I'm not a cheesemaker, I'm actually a dairy farmer. So my only experience of cheese making was 18 months in Lois's kitchen before we actually started the factory, 1 day a week making cheese. That was my lot about cheese making, that's all I knew. A bit of research on the internet, and we've had help from a chap, Dave Milner, more recently up at Balclutha, who was a cheesemaker from way back, who's been a big help to us. We decided that rather than have a truck cart our milk to the factory, we build the factory close to the cow shed. So we've got a 75-metre stainless steel line that brings the milk straight from the milking shed to the factory. There's been plenty of days we wonder why the heck we've done such a thing. It was so easy just to watch the Fonterra tanker come down the driveway. But at the same time, it is so rewarding when you actually see people enjoying your product. And that was one thing that I guess that initiated it was, in the butcher shop, you've seen people actually enjoy your product, you got the feedback. Whereas, as a dairy farmer, generally you don't get that. We're a total of 300 hectares now, of which about 260 is probably effective. We have it split into 2 units. Basically, the organic unit, where the factory is, that's 130 hectares total, probably about 115 to 120 effective. We milk 330 cows on there. We do milk some through the winter so that we can keep our production going through the winter, so that obviously affects our stocking rate a little bit. And we graze our yearlings off, so from 1st of May to 1st of May our yearlings are grazed off. Apart from that, we're pretty much totally self-contained. I don't actually milk the cows anymore. I did a week about 2 years ago when a staff member got sick, but apart from that I haven't. I did 18 years of it full on, and yeah, I'm quite happy to have someone else doing it now. We do have great staff, and so Michael, the manager of the organic farm, has been with us for 14 years now. So Michael runs it like it's his own. He does a fantastic job of it, so I don't really have to have any input into the day-to-day part of the farm. My input is more about trying to research about different ways of doing things, better, healthier ways of doing things. 15 odd years ago we would have been planting just a ryegrass and clover mixture, but as we did more homework, we decided for animal health reasons we need to plant some deep-rooted plants. And so we now put chicory and plantain in all our pasture mixes. And this is what it looks like at 2 years old. So our pasture is actually renewed every 8 years. We go around our farm every 8 years with rotation with Swedes for wintering, because we need to do that in Southland, and then we put one of these pasture mixes in. And so we get this good pasture mix, which over time, by the time sort of 5 or 6 years, the plantain and the chicory has just about disappeared. But because we're renewing, we've always got some of the farm that is nice and new like this. Really great for animal health, and the cows love it. You can see they're happy as out there eating it all. Some people might call it weeds, but it's great for animal health and production. The milk comes from the milking shed through the pasteuriser, 72.5 degrees for 15 seconds. That pasteurises the milk. Then it's into the cheese vat. From there, the culture gets added, left for 3/4 of an hour to an hour, and then the rennet gets added, left for another 3/4 of an hour today it was, and then the curd gets cut. It then gets stirred, and the temperature is slowly lifted, and then the half of the whey will get drained off and left to stand. Then the rest of the whey will get drained off, and then all the curds that is there will actually then be broken up in the vat and stacked on the side of the vat to drain. Matthew works for us 3 days a week, and he actually probably makes 95% of our cheese now, does most of the work in the cheese room now, and does a brilliant job. The more different cheeses you've got, the more they're going to order, the bigger each order is. We make Camembert, a farmhouse, which is a type of cheddar. We do cheddar, and we do a cumin cheddar and a sage cheddar. We do a halloumi, that's one of our favourites. We do a blue, we do some ricotta, and we do a Colby. And because we milk Jersey cows, our Colby is actually quite different to what people generally used to, real soft, creamy cheese because of the Jersey cow's milk. And we do a garlic version of that also, which is really quite something. Marketing to date is me fronting up to people with our product and just telling them our story and what we've got. And I guess we find real successful is just letting people try our product. It's just cold calling. One day I fronted up to 26 supermarkets, I think. Started in Wellington and just drove around all the New World supermarkets, Pack and Save supermarkets. And that's the sort of thing that just we've been doing, just fronting up the businesses, or else if it's businesses that are too far away and we hear about them, we're not going to be there for a while, we'll phone them and then send them some samples and then follow up another phone call. People can order online, so we get a number of orders from our website, which, yeah, is very helpful. It just gets us out to another group of people. The orders come in, we do the invoices, then Catherine puts the order together and then takes it meets the appropriate freight truck at Mataura. Obviously, we're on a back road here, so we meet the freight trucks at Mataura, so depending on where it's going as to which truck, so she has a few trips to Mataura some days. There's not room in New Zealand for every dairy farmer to be making their own cheese, but there's room for a lot more small cheese makers like ourselves. We always need a Fonterra, we need a big way of processing all that milk, but I don't see any problem in the growth in the small processors because of the fact that we're all making different product. We're not out there competing on price, we're out there competing with a different product.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.